We'll announce it as is. We're hot. All right. Good evening, church. It's 7 o'clock. We'll go ahead and kick things off. All you hallway deacons out there, make your way in. My voice is about shot tonight, so you guys are going to have to bear with me. We had our red-white wrestling showcase last night, and we had 67 youth matches alone. There's 120-something kids participating. I yelled for 3 hours straight, and so and our own Cade and Kennedy Luker wrestled, Evelyn and Noah wrestled, and Alex Hooker wrestled. So it was a good turnout. It was a really fun time. With that being said, if I start cutting out, I'm sorry. Carol Rouse is slowly progressing. Her numbers were better this morning. The doctors believe she will be in the hospital until the 13th and in a hotel until the 19th or 20th. Donna Perkins is scheduled for a procedure tomorrow at Spine and Specialty Hospital, where shots will be injected in her spine and neck area. John Wallace is being treated for bronchitis. Angela Beck met with the cardiologist today. She is scheduled at Tulsa St. Francis to have a scope done through her throat to view the hole in her heart to gain more information. Cindy Kennedy, cousin of Gloria McDaniel, has stage 4 cancer and will start chemo in a few weeks. We are still needing a teacher for the winter quarter in the 2nd to 3rd grade class for Sunday mornings beginning December 7th. Please see Dean Goss or sign up at the welcome booth. This weekend is our fall retreat. We're going to have a van leaving here at the church that's going to leave. It's going to leave at 5 o'clock to make sure that we get out there in time for the retreat. If you did not sign up, but you still want to go, I will not turn you away. Please show up. Cost is $35. If money is keeping you from coming, come anyways. It will be taken care of, I promise you. We've got a really fun weekend planned, a lot of really cool activities. I spent today putting mixers and stuff together, and we've got a really solid group of speakers lined up as well. So I encourage you, if you have not made the decision to come to this yet, please come out and have fun with us. Morning Star Fellowship, Sunday morning coffee and fellowship, 8:30 a.m. to 9:15 a.m. in the fellowship hall. Enjoy a cozy start to your Sunday with hot coffee, hot chocolate, hot cider. This will be every Sunday through December 21st, catered by Daryl Hamby and Michael Fontenot. And I want to say, this does not do it justice as to the setup they got going on back there. It's legit. I highly encourage you guys to come share a cup of coffee with us. And they got little peppermint chocolate stirrers and mini marshmallows, and it's legit. It's good. So I encourage you to be there for that. The Birth of Jesus play is this Sunday, December 7th. Sunday morning, immediately after Bible class, bring lunch to eat in the fellowship hall, and we will have play practice right after that. Parents, please bring your children to the 5 o'clock worship that evening, and we will dismiss the children to get ready at 5:30. Boys will get ready in the pre-K through 2nd grade Bible hour room. Girls will get ready in the 3rd through 5th Bible hour room. The play will begin at 6 p.m. immediately after evening service. If you guys have never seen that play, it is really well put together. The kids do an awesome job. It's always such a blessing to watch. And I hear there is a donkey that makes an appearance. Ladies' Christmas party, December 9th, 6 p.m. at the home of Cheryl Petrie. Bring a wrapped gift and a can of food for our pantry. Sign up is at the welcome booth. December 10th, Soul Sisters meet at 5:30. Bring a bag of individually wrapped candy. They're meeting here, right? Yeah. Soul Sisters? Yes. Hey, we'll send the Soul Sisters over, Henry. Soul Sisters meeting here that night? Yes, we'll go with yes. December 13th, there will be an adult game night. No children. This will be at 5:30 p.m. Bring your favorite snack and game. There will be a new 12-step program that will be at Henry's house. Let's not bring the Soul Sisters there for that one, though. December 12th is the game night, not December 13th. Yes, so December 12th is the adult game night, not December 13th. There will be a new 12-step support group. Will begin Thursday evening, December 11th, at Henry Petrie's home, 414 Kendall Boulevard in Muskogee. This group meets weekly from 7 to 8. It is a support group for addiction. All addictions, not just drugs and alcohol. We are all addicted to something. Amen. December 13th, Soul Sister annual pajama Christmas party at Cheryl Petrie's. Your house is going to be full that week. The van departs the church building at 4:30 p.m. Care and Concern Ministry is providing Christmas food boxes. Please see Chris Branscombe if you need one or know anyone who does. Our December pantry items are a 4-roll package of toilet paper and laundry detergent. There will be a New Year's Eve food and game night, December 30th at 6 p.m. in the fellowship hall. Smoked pork loin provided. Bring a side dish and or dessert. Bring your favorite game to play or join in a game with someone. Come and enjoy fun, food, and fellowship. Is Mike in here? Is that kids invited as well? So that's anybody that wants to come to that game night. December 30th will be for the whole family. Birthdays. December 3rd, Kevin Cheris, Alexis, and Ashton Jones. Is that right? Okay. December 4th, Jenny West. December 5th, Matthew Holderby. December 6th, Jeff Hazelwood, David Huggins. December 8th, Bella Garner, Daryl Hamby. December 9th, Zach Schaefer. Anniversaries, December 3rd, Steve and Patsy Klinkenbeard. December 4th, Tim and Angela Beck. I'm going to turn it over to Kenny for a few songs. If you guys have any further prayer requests or announcements that need to be made, please get with me and we will get them taken care of.
All righty, it's good to see everybody. Food always brings the crew out, right? That's the way it usually goes. Get our bellies full. Here we go. You are Lord of creation and Lord of my life, Lord of the land and the sea. You were Lord of the heavens before there was time. Lord of all lords you will be. We bow down and we worship you, Lord. We bow down and we worship you, Lord. We bow down and we worship you, Lord. Lord of all lords you will be. You are King of creation and King of my life, King of the land and the sea. You were King of the heavens before there was time, and King of all kings you will be. We bow down and we crown you the King. We bow down and we crown you the King. We bow down and we crown you the King. King of all kings you will be. We bow down and we crown you the King. We bow down and we crown you the King. We bow down and we crown you the King. King of all kings you will be. All right, unto thee, O Lord, unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. Oh my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed, and not my enemies triumph over me.
Do we have any further? There, we got a couple.
The party at the building that was listed for the 30th was actually on Wednesday the 31st.
Okay, the party at the building that was listed on the 30th, the New Year's Eve food and game night, is not December 30th because that is not the New Year's Eve. December 31st is when this will take place.
We're having a service here on Tuesday, and then Wednesday.
So December 30th will be a Tuesday service, and then December 31st will be our party. Okay. Okay. I will get you a drink in 1 second. Any other announcements or prayer requests? Let's bow, guys. Father God, we love you so, so much, and we are so grateful for all the good that you put in our lives, Father. I know the world would have us see that things are just terrible, that things don't go right, that, that we always need to be craving more or searching for the bigger, better thing. But God, in you we have everything we need. Father, in you we are fulfilled. We are filled. We are made perfect and whole inside you, God. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that blessing in itself that it is. And I pray that we never take that for granted and that we always keep that at the forefront of our minds, Father, as we walk through our lives. And we have got many among our number, Father, who are sick or recovering from surgeries. I pray that you would be with each and every single one of them. Be with Carol as she is progressing, God, and we're thankful for that good news. And I just pray that you would continue to be with her and bring her healing and bring her peace. Bring her comfort, God. She's been through quite a bit recently, Father, and I just pray for some calm and some stillness in her life for a period. God, I pray that you be with Donna Perkins as she goes in for her procedure tomorrow at Spine and Specialty Hospital. God, I pray that you would continue to be with John Wallace as he's being treated for bronchitis. Be with Angela Beck as she prepares to have a scope done, Father, and be with Cindy Kennedy, God, as she has received this devastating news, Father, and sometimes in those situations, things just look hard. They look scary because it's unknown, God. And I just pray that she feels your presence in her life, that you would be with her and the family and just carry them through this difficult time, Father. We've got so many activities and parties coming up over the next couple of weeks, God. And I pray that you would bless each and every single one of them. Help them to be fruitful, God, for your kingdom. Help us to not lose sight in the busyness. Help us not to be, impressed with the busy schedules, but to always keep your mission first and foremost, Father. Help us to remember that these parties, these get-togethers, these outings, they are all serving one purpose, and that is to further your kingdom and to spread the gospel to those who have not heard it yet, Father. And I pray that you would bless our efforts. Bring those to us who need to hear your word, Father, who need to know your way of life, Father. And pray that you would go with us as we go into Bible class this evening. Help us to keep our hearts and our minds open and receptive to what it is that you want us to learn. Help those who have prepared classes tonight, God, speak through them. And Father, use them as a mouthpiece to share the wisdom that you would have them impart on others, God. And just pray that you be with us as we go out throughout the rest of our week. And it is in Christ's name that we pray. Amen. Come on, baby.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we're going to start the last of the 10 Commandments. So we've just got tonight and next week to finish that, and then there is one last class week before we get to the end of the year things. And Chris asked me to do something on the 17th, so we have yet to determine what something is going to be. But we'll have something on the 17th, and then we'll be into the holiday season. And I think you heard Barrett say we're meeting on Tuesday night during New Year's week, and I have a feeling we'll meet on Tuesday night during Christmas week. So it'll be a little bit different schedule. Just that'll all be announced later. All right, take a look at the picture on the screen. Anybody have any idea where I found that one? Okay, who said that? How did you know? Mona looked at it and immediately said Walmart, which is true. How did you know? Okay, now this is where it is on Walmart. What's interesting to me about that is that Walmart's business basically operates on the principle of coveting.
Exactly.
Think about it. They have a few things that you actually need, but then they have a whole lot of things that they hope that you want. And so I thought it was interesting that they were selling big "thou shalt not covet." And by the way, you can covet that little picture there with several different frames. It can be black, brown, or white, or it can be frameless if you want, 2 or 3 different sizes. So you can covet about whatever you want with that. All right, Daryl made a comment a moment ago that this is the hard one. And I think as we go along, you might see that play out. But I want to ask you first, what is significantly different about this commandment versus the previous 9? What is different about this commandment as opposed to the previous 9? Pardon? All right. Kelly says it's internal, and that's correct. Think about it. Yeah, personally internal. The previous 9 all involve some sort of outward action, right? Which seems to me that you can't do them without somebody else noticing. And even if you get away with stealing something, if you're eventually caught, that becomes public. All the others, somebody else is going to know if you did it. But if I am sitting in the pew on Sunday morning coveting a new car, who's going to know that? Nobody. Except me and God. Nobody else will know. So how do you deal with violations of this commandment? The others? The others you punish publicly, right? In fact, for example, if somebody worships another god, the law of Moses says that the whole community is to deal with that person and put them to death. If a town begins to worship another god, the rest of the community, the rest of the tribe is to gather and put that town to death. There's public punishment for all the others, but this one, how does it get punished? Because nobody knows. Yes, sir.
Question. Is coveting wanting a new car or wanting somebody else's car?
Okay, the question is coveting wanting a new car or wanting somebody else's car? And the answer is yes. Now, this commandment specifically talks about coveting things. Well, it says you shall not covet, and it goes on to spell out not coveting certain things belong to your neighbor, your neighbor's possessions. So, but if you look at covet throughout the Bible, especially in the Old Testament, it's not just things your neighbor owns. And we'll talk more about that later. But so the answer to that one is yes. All right. Okay, coveting can lead to adultery. I'm not going to say they're exactly equivalent if that's what you were asking. Did I misunderstand?
Well, I meant for instance, you shall not commit adultery, and if you're taking a person's wife, you're coveting her in also the
right. Yeah, you're getting some that I'm planning to cover in quite a bit of time next week. But coveting can be the motivation for violating all the other 9. Coveting can cause you to violate all of the others. So if I covet a woman who I'm not married to, I'm lusting after her, coveting her, that can lead to adultery, obviously, can't it? So, but we'll talk about that more next week. Now, how important is this commandment? Because it's the last one, right? And if I covet and don't act on it, who gets hurt? I mean, it's not like I murdered someone or stolen from someone, right? It's the other commandments, if I violate those, somebody gets hurt. Nobody gets hurt with this one, so how important is it? Is it last for a reason?
Well, it's sin, and it can separate you from God.
Okay. Daryl says it's sin, which means it can separate you from God, so just by definition, there's importance there.
Whether nothing else happens or not, that happens.
Okay. Even if you don't follow through on your coveting, you've still committed sin and have damaged your relationship with God. Okay? Jack? Okay. Jack says that it can be a gateway to breaking all the others, which would maybe make it a little more important than it appears. Because if I don't covet something, then maybe I don't go on and commit the other, or violate the other commandment. Another hand over here? Yeah.
Covenant is from the heart. And if you put your heart, as we talked about earlier, you'll have no other gods before me, your heart is more toward that item than it is God, then you're actually making. You catch where I'm going with that?
Mm-hmm. In fact, Paul specifically says twice in the New Testament that he used the New Testament, the Greek word for coveting. He says covetousness is idolatry. Or he said, one of them says covetousness is idolatry. The other one says that a covetous person is an idolater. So yeah, Paul makes a direct connection between coveting and idolatry because whatever you're coveting has become more important to you than God. And whatever is most important to you, that's your God. All right? This commandment is, some of you have already hit on this, but I think this commandment it's arguably the most important one. Because if we can avoid this one, we can avoid the others. All the others, even though they haven't spelled this out, all the others start with something in your heart. I don't murder somebody until I have dwelt on some way they have wronged me, something they've got that I want to take from them, whatever it may be. It starts inside me. Isn't that what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount? Matthew chapter 5? Yeah. He says, you've heard you shall not murder, but I tell you what? Don't be angry at your brother without cause. Because if I start getting angry at someone, that could lead me to murder. All the other commandments, the violation starts in the heart. Well, if we observe this commandment, we're never going to get to a heart state that could lead to a violation of another commandment. That's why I say this one arguably might be the most important one, because it could stop all the others in their tracks. Sean? I say, arguably, this one's more important than the others because this deals with the motivation that leads to violating the others. Something's got to motivate you to violate the others, right? And this one could cut the motivation right out of you. Now, I said arguably. You don't have, if you don't agree, that's fine. But this one is, a lot of people want to, they look at this commandment and say, well, it's last for a reason because it's not as important as the others. And I disagree with that greatly. This one's hugely important because, again, it deals with what motivates you to violate all the others. So let's talk more about what coveting means in the Bible. By the way, I want to show you this too. This is the one commandment that is addressed to good people. I don't think any of us here have murdered someone. And I don't think any of us here have worshiped another god. I don't think any of us here are routinely stealing from someone. You know, all the other things, we don't do that kind of stuff. We're good people. But this commandment deals with good people. Because even good people can covet, can want something that belongs to someone else, want something that that you don't have and don't need, and so on. So I kind of like the way Martin Luther puts it. The last commandment, then, is addressed not to those whom the world considers wicked rogues, but precisely to the most upright, to people who wish to be commended as honest and virtuous because they have not offended against the preceding commandments. So this one hopefully was going to hit home in ways that perhaps the others have not. Now let's look at how the Bible uses the word covet. In Exodus chapter 5, hang on one second, I forgot to mention something. Matthew 19, Jesus deals with the rich young ruler. You remember that story? The young man comes to him, and he appears to be very sincere. Jesus doesn't accuse him of having bad motives. You know, he doesn't talk to him the way he sometimes talks to the scribes and Pharisees. He comes to him and sincerely asks, "What must I do to be saved?" And Jesus starts with the 10 Commandments. He says, "Keep the commandments." And the young man says, "Well, I've done that. Since I was a kid, I've done that." And Jesus does not argue that point, does he? He accepts the man at his word. Apparently, that statement that I have kept all the commandments, that statement is true. And so he tells the young man, well, pause for a second. So if Jesus agrees that this kid has not violated the commandments, would you agree that he's a good person?
Yes.
Everybody look at him and say, "This is a decent fella." And Jesus says, "One thing you lack. Take all your possessions, sell them, and give to the poor." And the young man couldn't do that. Now, what does that tell you about where his heart was? Pardon? It's in his stuff. If you dig way down to the bottom, he was a covetous man. He wanted his stuff. He valued his stuff more than his relationship with God.
Which makes it idolatry.
Which makes it idolatry, right. Makes it idolatry. Because it was more important to him than God. All right. Now let's look at how the Old Testament and New Testament use the word covenant. In Exodus chapter 20, where it says, "You shall not covet," the Hebrew word is kamad. And it means, the root idea is to desire. And sometimes it's morally neutral. You know, you might desire to eat fruit. That's not necessarily a bad thing, unless you're stealing it from someone. So desire in and of itself isn't always bad, but it can lead to the wrong kind of action in order to satisfy that desire. One way to illustrate it is in Genesis chapter 6, verse 5, where God is contemplating destroying the world with a flood. You remember the reason why? What did God say about mankind? Every thought of their heart was only evil always. The desire of their heart was only evil always. So their desire was oriented toward evil things, and that's where coveting is. Now in Deuteronomy chapter 5, where the 10 Commandments are repeated, the word kamad is used. But, well, take a look at that. Deuteronomy 5 is kind of interesting the way it's worded here. Deuteronomy 5 in verse 21. "You shall not covet your neighbor's wife." Now, that is the word kamad that's used back in Exodus. "And you shall not desire," different word. That's a different Hebrew word. "You shall not desire your neighbor's house, field, male servant, female servant, ox, donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's." The second word that's used is avah. It almost always refers to an evil desire, something that's contrary to God's will. The idea is that you're craving something. You're wanting something to the exclusion of almost everything else. If you look at Genesis chapter 3 and verse 6, Eve is already a little bit hung up about the tree, right? We know that because when the devil comes to her, the serpent comes to her and says, "Is it really true you can't eat of anything in the garden?" And she says, "No, that's not what the Lord said. He said we can eat of anything in the garden except the one tree in the center. That one we can't eat from." And she adds, "Neither can we touch it, because on the day we do, we'll die." So she adds the "don't touch" part. God never said that. Eve adds that. So we kind of know the tree is in her mind. It's bothering her for some reason. And so the devil tells her, "You're not going to die. When you eat it, you're going to be like God. You'll know good from evil." And then verse 6 says that Eve saw that it actually says that she desired that it would be good for food, and then she desired it for the wisdom. It's our words here that are translated covet in other places. So she coveted that fruit and ate it, and that led to the sin. That's her craving, her desire for something that she really shouldn't have, and that's what led to sin. One person put it this way: the word kamad refers to a desire for something physical, visible to the eye, and then avah refers to a desire that stems from the inside, an inner need or an inner want. That may be taking things a little too far, but it does show you the scope of those two words. You can desire physical things that you can see. You can also desire things from the inside that are things that you want. Now, both of those desires are condemned in the Old Testament. Go to the book of Proverbs. Book of Proverbs, and we're going to start in chapter 6, verse 25. Now, these first few verses all use the word kamad. Do not desire, covet her beauty in your heart. Do not let her capture you with her eyelashes. This is instruction about adultery and avoiding an evil woman. So don't be taken in. Don't covet her beauty. Don't be taken in by it. Go to Proverbs chapter 12 and verse 12. Whoever is wicked covets the spoil of evildoers, but the root of the righteous bears fruit. So if you're wicked, you will covet, and specifically covet something that's possessed by someone who's done evil. Go to Proverbs chapter 21 and start in verse 25. The desire of the sluggard kills him, for his hand refused to labor. All day long he craves and craves, but the righteous gives and does not hold back. And the craves and craves, that's our word kamad again. Then one more. Look in the book of Micah, chapter 2. Micah is condemning the elite part of Israel's population. And one of the things he charges them with, they covet fields and seize them, and covet houses and take them away. They oppress a man in his house, a man in his inheritance. All right, now the other word that's used in Deuteronomy 5, go to Proverbs again, back to Proverbs and chapter 21. The soul of the wicked desires evil, and his neighbor finds no mercy in his eyes. Skip down to verse 25. We read this earlier. The desire, that's the second word for covet. The desire of the sluggard kills him, and then all day long he craves and craves. Craves is the first word for covet. And then one more, Proverbs chapter 24, verse 1. Be not envious of evil men, nor desire to be with them. So you can find, pretty much scattered throughout the Old Testament, anytime those words that are translated covet in the Ten Commandments, anytime those words are used, it's almost always bad. Almost always bad, something that's condemned. Now, can you think of any examples of coveting in the Old Testament? David, more specific. Bathsheba? David and Bathsheba. Okay. Yeah. David and Bathsheba, the woman, in 2 Samuel chapter 11. Oddly enough, now Mike, I've got that by notes. I'm not disagreeing with you. Oddly enough, the covet word is never used there. But I think that would describe his behavior, wouldn't it? He's wandering around on the roof because it's hot. You know, you go up on the roof where the cool winds can blow or the cool breeze blows, and he sees her bathing. And instead of turning around going back inside like he should have done, what's he do? He looks, and he notices her beauty, and apparently dwells on her beauty. And finally he acts. You see how that worked? You know, the thought entered his mind, the thought entered his heart, and then he acted on it. He sent someone to find out who she is. Yeah, his neighbor's wife, right. He finds out who she is, and he sends someone else to bring her to the palace. And, you know, I don't want to get into a big discussion here about sexual harassment or whatever, but what ability did Bathsheba have to resist? None. We don't know if she wanted to or not. She may have been perfectly willing for the whole thing to happen, but if she hadn't been perfectly willing, what ability did she have to resist?
You don't get to tell
Yeah.
the king no.
You don't tell the king no. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The whole concept of women's rights would have been met with, huh? If you'd even uttered that phrase back then, it wouldn't have made any sense. Say again?
His servants told him that was his wife.
Right. Oh, yeah. When he sent to ask who is it, they came back saying it's the wife of Uriah, whom David knew quite well because Uriah was one of his mighty men. He was one of his inner guard. So, yeah, he knew when he was told who she was married to, he knew everything that was going on and knew exactly what he was doing from that point. Okay, what other examples of coveting? I think I heard somebody mention, what? Jezebel and who? Yeah, okay. King Ahab and his wife Jezebel, this is 1 Kings chapter 21. Naboth owned a vineyard right next to the palace. So that means Ahab could see it pretty much daily. You know, anytime he goes in and out of the palace, right there is Naboth's vineyard. He wanted it. Now, Naboth didn't want to sell, and he makes reference to his ancestors and so on. You remember how land was divided up among the tribes after the conquest. God gave each tribe a portion of the promised land. Each tribe then awarded each clan a portion of that tribal inheritance. And each clan awarded each family a section of the clan's inheritance. Okay, and that was passed down father to son, all through the generations. But you track it all the way back, who did each family actually get their land from? The way they looked at it was, this is what God gave my family as an inheritance. And Naboth is like, I can't sell you my land. My ancestors have preserved it all this time. God gave it to them. I can't give it to you. I can't sell it to you. So Ahab goes into his palace bedroom and pouts. Read it. That's what he did. So while he's in there sulking, Jezebel comes in and asks him what's the matter, and he tells her what's going on, and she says, you're the king, you can do whatever you want. Throw a party, pay a couple of guys to lie about Naboth and claim that he's blaspheming the Lord or something like that. They'll put him to death, and you can have the vineyard. And that's exactly what happened. But do you see the pattern again, just like with David? Ahab sees the vineyard, and he desires it. He wants it, even though he has there's no proper way for him to get it. There's no good way for him to get it. He wants it, and that desire settles down inside him and keeps working on him, and finally takes root in the form of Jezebel's advice. And what's he do? He suborns perjury, and he commits murder to satisfy his covetous desire. There's one more famous example in the Old Testament where the word covet is actually used.
Probably Achan.
Okay, Jacob. Jacob's conned his brother out of his birthright. The word covet's not used there. That strikes me as a little bit different episode. Yeah.
Achan, the guy that took
Okay.
the gold.
Daryl is saying Achan, the guy that took the gold, the fancy cloth, and a couple other things from Jericho. Now, you remember the story of Jericho. We all know about marching around and the walls fall down, right? What you need to remember is that the whole city was declared haram, which means devoted to destruction. It means that it belongs to God. Now, normally in ancient times, when you sacked a city, who got the stuff?
The people who sacked the city.
Yeah, the people who did the sacking. All the soldiers got to take stuff. That was part of their motivation for doing it. So, but in this case, God says, this one belongs to me. And so all of it is basically, all of it's going to be burned. And all the value will be, quote unquote, wasted as far as humans are concerned, because it belongs to God and will be returned to him. Well, Achan is involved in the sacking of Jericho. And after he's found out, he says, I saw this gold, I saw this cloth, and he literally says, I coveted them. Now, this is where I'm saying the word's a little broader than what belongs to your neighbor, because he's not stealing this from his neighbor. He sees some stuff and he wants it, so he took it. And because of that, the next battle the Israelites fought was against a little tiny place called Ai. They've just finished taking a large fortified town, city of Jericho. And then they go out and fight this little tiny place called Ai, and Ai whoops them, and a bunch of Israelites die because of Achan's sin. And Achan himself described his sin as coveting. And again, watch the progression. He says, I saw this, and it entered his heart. And then he says, I coveted them, so I took them. Saw, covet, action. Desire, covet, action. It all, it always works the same way. Were you about to? Okay. All right. Yeah, he did. He did take it from God. Okay. So, coveting is dealt with multiple times in the Old Testament. Now, it also comes up in the New Testament. The New Testament word for covet is pleonexia. Pleonexia. And it means to have more and to want more. It implies a spirit that cannot be satisfied. Because whatever you got, you want more. Whatever you got, you want more. And if you get more, you want more still. And Rubel Shelley defined it this way: reaching beyond what is appointed for man. And interestingly, the Greeks and Romans were not, neither one of them were very moral people. Especially judging them from biblical standards. They would do some things that would make even the average non-believing American kind of turn away in disgust. There's a lot of nasty stuff in Greek and Roman society. But it's kind of interesting that both of their societies condemned this. Both Greeks and Romans condemned this kind of wanting of more and more and more. And it's condemned in the New Testament. Go to Ephesians chapter 5 and verse 5. This is what we were referring to a little while ago. You may be sure of this: everyone who is sexually immoral or impure, or who is covetous, there's our word pleonexia, and then look at the parenthesis, that is an idolater, has no inheritance in the kingdom of God. Now go to Colossians chapter 3 and verse 5. Put to death, therefore, what is earthly in you: sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. And covetousness is our word pleonexia again. Pardon? Yeah. Mike is saying if you look at verse 5 and all the other things listed there, covetousness leads to all of those. Right. Okay, take a look now at Luke chapter 12. Now let's go to verse 13 where the paragraph starts. Someone in the crowd said to him, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." But he, Jesus, said to him, "Man, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you?" And he said to them, "Take care and be on your guard against all covetousness, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of his possessions." Right? 1 Timothy chapter 6. But those who desire to be rich, verse 9, chapter 6, verse 9. Those who desire to be rich fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evils. It is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Now, craving is our word pleonexia. So you could translate that, it is through this coveting that people have, or covetousness, that people have wandered away from the faith, or wandered away from the faith. That word desires, it's the word epithumia. It shows up a lot in connection with coveting. And doesn't mean covet, but you know, it's interesting how the two concepts get in the New Testament, they're frequently linked together. You see something, you desire something, and then that leads to coveting, the wanting of it. And the wanting of it then leads you to take action, sinful action, to get what you've been desiring. All right, take a look at James chapter 1. And verse 14. Now, this doesn't have the covet word in there, but it does have the desire word. I think it's interesting the way James spells this out. Each person is desired when he is lured, each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death. Now, James doesn't use the word covet in there, but can you kind of see the idea? You're tempted when you desire something, and then what happens? You're enticed by your desire. Desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin. Somewhere in that conceiving is where the coveting comes in. You want it, then you begin to crave it. You desire it, you covet it, and then you commit some sin in order to obtain it. Same pattern. Yes, ma'am?
So, if you see something and you desire it, but you don't commit a sin to get it, is it still the same thing?
All right. She said, ask if you see something and desire it, but you don't commit a sin to acquire it. Is it still sinful? What do you think? Sean says yes. Okay. How are you applying that?
If it's a desire and you don't sin, then you not sin, so therefore God said he'd give it to you. Go back to Eve. I wanted a car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wanted a car before the old car broke.
Okay.
That's not covet. No. That's prudent, practical behavior. So just because I see something and I desire it, that doesn't, I haven't committed a sin. Now, I want a new car, my current car is good, and I get the new car and I go into debt and I screw up my family finances and now my family is yeah, you can get on shaky ground here. But just because you want something, don't make it.
Okay, Chuck is saying that if you If your car is old and falling apart, and because of that you desire to replace it, which would be desiring a new car, right? Or at least new to you, that desire doesn't have to be sinful. But he says if your car is okay and you just want a new one, and you go get it and go into debt for it and mess up your family finances and hurt people because of it, that's a whole other matter. Okay, desire in itself doesn't have to be evil. It can lead to evil depending on what you're desiring and what you're willing to do to obtain the desire. Somebody. Okay, Mike is trying to distinguish between, this is not exactly his point, but I'm going to say it this way anyway, you're distinguishing between good desires and evil desires. So again, the word desire doesn't have to be wrong. It's what are you desiring?
What are you doing to get it?
So, go ahead.
I would say it's a matter of priority. So, it's not just a matter of desire. Desire doesn't necessarily have to be good or evil. If you desire something so much that you make it an idol, you place it over your relationship with God, then automatically you're in the sinful realm.
Yeah, if you desire, whatever you're, now, Eric, correct me if I'm misquoting you, but whatever you desire, if it takes the place of God, that's sinful. And that would mean even if what you're desiring isn't a bad thing in itself.
Yeah, it could be something completely innocuous, but if it means more to you than your relationship with God, then...
If I am so consumed by my old car that that's all I can think about, well, okay, it's not a bad thing to want to replace the car that's fallen apart. But if that has become so prominent in my thinking, then you got to start asking yourself, to use Eric's word, where are my priorities? And how is that affecting my relationship with God? I once heard a fellow say that, we think that rich people are consumed by money. And he says that in his opinion, the people who are most consumed by money are poor people. Now, that's not always the case, obviously. Neither one is always the case. But it's interesting perspective. It's up to the person and what they're doing with their wants and needs, desires, and so on. Somebody was, okay.
Well, that James 1 passage, you got to figure out where you are in that process. He outlines it really well. And if you're somewhere into that process, you need to repent back out of it. You started to do you talked about covetousness, I think it was in Luke, and that gets you into that rich farmer. So there's a rich farmer, his lands were producing great crops, his barns were full, there was nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
But his problem was he had to have more, and had to have more, and I'm going to tear these barns down and build more. And what for?
Okay.
He said, I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry. That is coveting his stuff.
All right. Daryl makes 2 points. First, he says, you think about the progression in James. You're moving along from desiring, temptation, desire leading to temptation, leading to the conceiving of, to conception, giving birth to sin. If you see yourself somewhere in that progression, you need to have enough self-awareness to know it and then back out of it before you actually get into the sin part, committing a sin. Now, the other thing he mentions is the story in Luke about the rich farmer whose crops had just, bumper crops. He had more than he knew what to do with, ran out of warehouse space.
All of his barns are full.
Right, all of his barns are full. So What's he do? He could have said, is there somebody in need that I could help with this? Is there somebody who's been sick and wasn't able to farm his own land? Whatever. But instead he says, I know what I'll do. I'll build more barns. Now, remember what the definition of pleonexia was? Wanting more and more and more. Can't be satisfied. You get more and you want more still. That's him. So he builds more barns, saves all the stuff up, and then tells himself, man, I am set. I can sit back fat and happy for the rest of my life. Eat, drink, and be merry. And the Lord comes to him and said that night and says, your soul is required of you. Sean?
The two distinctions there is one of them is to want more, but the other one is to want more for yourself and want more for somebody else to have.
Say that again.
There's two distinctions there. You want more for yourself or you want more to give to somebody else.
Yeah, okay. If I'm a farmer and I want my crops to produce so that I have more to give, that's not a bad thing. Of course, that's not what this guy was doing, though. Somebody else.
Paul learned to be content with everything. He didn't have any desire for anything outside of God.
Right.
And that's a perfect example for us to live by.
Yeah, we'll look at Philippians 4 next week, but we'll just end on this note. That Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through Christ. We take that as a general promise. I can do anything through Christ. Take a look at the context, what Paul's actually talking about there. That's not exactly what he says. So I'll leave that hanging, and it's time for the bell, and we'll pick that up next week. Appreciate all your comments. Thank you.
Second. And there's one in the New Testament that you didn't bring up yet.